Yeah, I mean, and folks, maybe whilst I'm here, I'd love to share a bit more on the program. What can you expect? You know, who's it for? Why are we doing it? And then we'll go into some questions, Q&As after that. So kind of hold tight to all your questions, or feel free to use the chat whilst I talk. I think it's really important to start right from the beginning of, you know, why the fellowship program has been created. And this really centers on a lot of the work that we're doing at BioLeadership, which is, we think, you know, Javi touched on this, we think inherently the story of human progress is completely broken. And where can we learn a new way of being? Where can we learn a new way of leading or following? So the fellowship, in a sense, is our response to that. It's you know, it's in its heart, it's I'll share some slides whilst I talk, but in its heart, it's a 9-month leadership program that's really focused on these 3 different threads. So it's saying that actually we need more than just kind of knowledge and structures and case studies. We need to lead by a new way of being, a new way of feeling, much more of an embodied leadership. As Charlotte touched on, you know, a community that's connected, new forms of practice, new forms of collaboration. So thinking wise, you know, we invite organizations in to share their stories. We've got Patagonia who come in and share their stories. Guayaki, an amazing regenerative organization based in Chile, coming in to kind of share about the work that they're doing and how they're trying to be regenerative. We've got artists, storytellers coming in, people that are trying to make Venice not sink below sea level. You know, we're kind of bringing folks across the world to share stories of regenerative practice that's already happening in the world. So this is from the perspective of, this is where I've got to, these are my learnings. So that's the kind of thinking level. The being level is very much focused on kind of in this next slide, almost showing you the arc of the program. So the being level is about, how do we embody this? You know, we work with ideas of regenerative practice or how to manifest. We work with the unknown and how that feels in our bodies, what our limiting beliefs are, what our narratives are. You know, in the fellowship, it's quite hard to take the personal away from the professional, and we, you know, I think it came through in Charlotte's tapestry of beautiful photos of how we really welcome an inner work through this process. And then the third thread that goes through it all, which is around community and peer-to-peer work. I'll share a bit more on the structure of that, but what you're seeing here in this U is from preparation. So the fellowship next year starts in February the 16th, and it will end, as, you know, kind of, I'll use italics on that, it will end because, you know, this is very much an invite to be part of a continuous community, like I think Charlotte is kind of testament to, and to really move as a community, to be mobilized as a community for change across the world. That's at the core our intention for running this program. So what you're seeing here is kind of preparation, late Jan, February next year, through to the integration, which is in October. We're going to be running the fellowship number 3, a 9-month program. And we're going to have each one of these numbers, so starting with the unknown, as a kind of touch point to work with. You know, so we look at our current mindset, we look at our current system and our current approach. We look at different models that can help us in different organizations that are trying to chart a different path. We work with this sense throughout the fellowship of reconnection to ourselves, to the vital systems that we're part of. Systems theory and system change is an inherent theory that's part of the program. And we really try and distill that so we can bring that into our work. Through to kind of number 4 and regeneration. So we'll kind of be in sessions themed around that, probably kind of late spring, early summer next year, which is, we're starting to get into how can we make this, how can we bring to life the inquiries that we have. You know, I heard at the beginning of this call when we were checking in, Chris, you're thinking about education systems. Jill, you're looking at finding international communities and what you know, kind of how you can be part of that and how it can strengthen you. Sam, you're starting to think about integrating nature practice. You know, those inquiries that we're sitting with and we come into the fellowship with, we start to work with through this kind of regeneration and manifesting up curve. So a good third, if not 2/3 of the program is around how do we make this stuff happen in practice? How can we learn together? integrity mixed with power, mixed with, kind of we're legacy. We're really looking at making change last. How do we do that? How do we create regenerative shifts? And then integration, and that cycle isn't just one. It's a muscle and a practice that we learn, and the fellowship is a place to kind of practice that. I really love, I'm quite dyslexic, and the kind of the idea of scaffolding I find a really helpful crutch. I would class the fellowship as a scaffold on which to practice, on which to make a jump or prototype a shift. You're doing it with a bunch of other practitioners whose common thread is, I want to make a positive shift in the world. How do I do it? What stories can inspire me? Who else is out there doing the same? I think the words of Bethany Kobe say it so well. Bethany is a fellow from our first year. The fellowship is a mature learning space where you can live life as an inquiry that's self-directed, with a diversity of content and embodied practices. I really like this quote because it kind of says, it's what it says on the tin, basically. It's the fellowship is very much a space for people who kind of want to work actively to make a shift in the world, and it's that scaffold to try and support them. What it is and kind of what it feels like is kind of answered a bit by this slide, and I think we can come back to this slide in the Q&A because there's quite a lot of information here. But to give you a sense, what you'll experience in the fellowship is 9 months of a 9-month arc, as I've said, from February to October next year, where there'll be a series of core sessions based around these 3 threads, of breakthrough thinking, of lived practice, of community work. There'll be moments where you'll be supported in a peer-to-peer space. So you'll be in what we call quite affectionately a home circle, which will be about 7 to 8 people that you'll effectively go through this journey with. They're facilitated moments that really can help you try and spot, create shifts, make the content that we're taking in as a community, be held accountable, play back some of your learnings. We've got some amazing facilitators, and you'll be designated one as a home group or home circle host, and that will be with a bunch of other fellows as well, 7 or 8 fellows. So you've got that as the kind of core program, and then you've got this beautiful interweaving of special topics where the community extends. So then you're going to meet Charlotte again, our fellow from 2022. You're going to meet Veronica, who's our fellow from 2021. You're going to be joining the 3rd cohort of I've mentioned, but there's these moments where the community is intimate and it expands. So special topics are basically when we get excited and we think, God, we've got to bring them in and have them as a speaker. There'll probably be about 6 or 7 of those over the course of the arc. Last year we had Bayo Akomolafe speak all about slowing down. It was so inspiring, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's the session that Charlotte's referred to that she had to stop the press and tell her partner about. We've got Indigenous leaders coming in and telling us about the shifts that they're making. It's the work that Patagonia are doing, and the learnings that they're sharing with us is really inspiring stuff. So sense making of that with a wider community. And then there's these innovation and lab spaces. Whilst the home circles are intimate, they're vulnerable, they're allowing you to kind of really reflect on what's going on for you. The lab spaces are perhaps a slightly higher gear. How do we collaborate differently? How can we share some of the projects that we're working on? And how can we get feedback as a community so we're not isolated? And then finally, there's kind of, the outside of the fellowship, which is an online program. It is all online, and we support offline practice as much as possible. One way we do that is make a selection of nature-based retreats, slightly cheaper for fellows to attend. There's this beautiful flow in the fellowship of providing content, community, stories online, and giving practice, reflection, inquiry, and journal that you can take offline. But as Charlotte has shared, you're kind of given these different circles and forms of family in which to develop that practice. And in a sense, it's kind of learning a new practice and a new way of leading over the course of the 9 months. Vera, you'll probably smile because I've got your picture on the screen and I've got your quote on the screen. But I want to give you a sense of kind of the shifts that people have experienced and maybe, who's joined. We've got Hannah here in your bottom left-hand corner. She used to work for an organization that tried to make organizations less impact, kind of less bad, basically. But she talks about this idea of she was fed up of hospicing the old system. I can imagine some of you on the call might relate to that. She's saying the fellowships helped her understand a new way of supporting organizations truly shift towards regenerative practice. Her journey in the fellowship was really beautiful because she left her organization 2050, just as she joined the fellowship. And she's now founder of a new organization called Teal Co, which is inspired by the work of Frederick Laloux and kind of Teal organizations, which we'll touch on. And Veronica, you can probably say it so much better than me, but it's helped you ask provocative questions, and I just think that is such a beautiful thing. So the invite to folks joining the fellowship, I've been talking a lot, so maybe the most point for me to end on is the invite for anyone joining the fellowship, and who we're really looking for is folks that need community, are desiring inspiration, are desiring those new stories, need some kind of scaffold to help them do it, but what the invite really explicitly is an invite to be super active and really proactive over that 9-month process. You can see with Hannah and Veronica here that both of them have made shifts, and even in a small way, that's something we really want to invite you in and celebrate. Yeah, okay, I'm getting excited. I've been talking a lot. Maybe over to Javi for this slide here.
Yes, thank you, Ella. No, that was brilliant. I think you explained so well. And this connects to the part, to this other part of the session that we want to really connect and share with you, and it's around how can we bring these organizations, the organizations you are working into this. I was working, when I joined the fellowship in the first cohort, I was working in ferrovial construction, really big organization. And I was realizing how good it could be for the organization if I was joining this fellowship, and how could it actually support my professional development, but also how could I bring all of these things into the organization itself, around the changes that I wanted to do with them. I wanted to improve how we work, how we were designing structures, highways. There were a lot of things that I wanted to do in the organization, and having the fellowship, if I would have joined with them, at the end I did it myself. I just joined because they were not in that position, to actually open and really want to make those shifts and support me in that way. But I felt how important and how good it could be for organizations that are really wanting to support that really feel that this is needed for them to continue growing and improving how they are working. So we really feel there is a very good opportunity, for organizations to bring someone from the company, an employee, and bring them with a challenge, with a project, with an inquiry that the company has, some challenge that they are trying to work in the organization, and bring that employee in the fellowship to run through the project, and that way we can help create that bridge between the person and the organization, and bring all of those professional developments, tools, frames, stories, connections with other organizations, bring that into them. So this is why we are offering also in this fellowship. You can join as an individual, but you can join actually as an organization with them, bringing that project. And what we are trying to provide is, as Ella has been sharing, it's trying to bring this positive change in the organization, and to do that we are proposing, when the organization is joining and we are creating the relationships. For example, Aviva Investors, they are doing this already in the last year. They brought Jess Folds with them, and they were sponsoring her to join in the fellowship. It has created so much changes into their teams, and what we propose is to have also these extra 3 sessions over the fellowship, over those 9 months, 1.5 hour sessions with the fellow, with the employee, with their boss, or with a colleague in the organization, to help them bridge that knowledge and that learning experience, and help them frame the project, or help them no, create that change that they are trying to create or whatever they want to develop, no. So I think there is a really good opportunity to actually have like consultancy practice from the fellowship with Andres, with Ella, with myself, no, helping bridge those challenges from the organization and the personal development of the employee, and bridge that and connect it. So that's why yeah, we are also offering it, and yeah, and the main reason why we bring these sessions, no, to help that bridge.